If a Neanderthal walked into your gym tomorrow, do not, under any circumstances, agree to arm wrestle him. You would lose. Not narrowly. The contest would be over before your elbow even settled onto the table, and the creature flattening your hand has been extinct for 40,000 years. We like to think of ourselves as the finished product. Homo sapiens, Latin for wise man, the smartest, strongest thing ever to walk the planet. But for a long stretch of history, we shared this world with another kind of human who could have torn us in half. And the real question isn't whether you'd beat a Neanderthal in a fight. You wouldn't. The real question is how something that much stronger than you ended up losing the entire planet to your scrawnier ancestors. The answer is stranger than extinction. First, clear up the thing almost everyone gets wrong. Neanderthals were not your great-great-grandparents. They weren't a dumber, hairier, rough draft of us that we eventually upgraded from. They were a separate species of human, a different branch entirely, with DNA distinct from ours. Your line came from early modern humans. Theirs ran beside ours for hundreds of thousands of years, all the way back to around 430,000 years ago, mostly across the cold of Europe. We didn't even know they existed until 1856, when their bones turned up in a German valley called Neander. That's where the name comes from. Not very mysterious, honestly. Now, picture one standing next to you. He's shorter than you'd expect, maybe 5'4", but that's where the comfort ends. He weighs around 160 pounds, and almost none of it is soft. His bones are thicker than yours. His muscles are denser, his chest deeper, his eyes larger. A single one of his fingers is about as thick as two of yours. Put plainly, he is built like a fire hydrant that learned to hunt. Researchers estimate Neanderthals were somewhere between 5 and 20% stronger than modern humans. Where you might bench around 140 pounds on a good day at the gym, a Neanderthal's frame could likely handle something closer to 500. You do have longer arms, so in a brawl your one prayer is to hold his head at arm's length and hope he gets bored. He won't. But here's what makes that strength almost unfair. It ran on a better engine. That barrel chest and those wide nostrils fed his muscles far more oxygen than yours ever get, which meant he could move all day without flagging. We're talking about a body that could trek 30 miles across frozen open steppe just to find dinner, track a single animal for hours, and then bring down a 1,500-pound bison armed with nothing but a crooked stone axe. No fence between them, no rifle. Just a man and a beast the size of a small car, and the man expected to win because if he didn't, his whole family went hungry that night. The same guy could walk up to a cave, find a bear already living in it, one bigger than a grizzly, and simply evict it. For him, that was a normal Tuesday, and he packed all of it into a startlingly short life. Neanderthals grew up fast, counted as fully adult by around 12, and rarely saw 40. By the age you're still figuring out what to do with yourself, one of them had already lived most of his. So, if Neanderthals were that powerful, why are you the one reading this instead of one of them? Here's the twist that trips people up. Neanderthals didn't just match our brains, their skulls were actually bigger than ours, cradling a larger brain. Their eyes were huge, and a big share of that brain was wired to process what those eyes took in. They saw the world in extraordinary detail and reacted to it brilliantly. The catch is that bigger isn't better. What matters is what a brain spends its power on. A Neanderthal's mind was a masterpiece of the present moment. Read the situation, respond, survive. Our ancestors were running something different. They were planning ahead. That quiet gap decided everything. Around the time the two species were forced together, pushed into the same shrinking territory by a brutal global cooling, the early modern humans coming up out of Africa carried a few advantages that never show up in an arm wrestle. They were taller and more agile. They threw things. Spears let them kill from a distance, ending a fight without ever stepping inside a Neanderthal's reach. And crucially, they organized. They formed large tribes, made plans days in advance, and aimed all that coordination at a single goal. Raw strength is terrifying up close. It is almost useless against 20 people who decided last week exactly how this was going to go. The cold came at the Neanderthals from the other side too. They were committed meat eaters, built around hunting big game, not gathering fruit, nuts, and roots. So, when the deep frosts thinned out the deer and the mammoths and the bison, their menu didn't just shrink, it nearly vanished, and a body tuned for one strategy couldn't pivot to another. Then there's the grimmest theory of all, which is that the Neanderthals were partly undone by being Neanderthals. A life spent wrestling bears and rhinos and mammoths breeds a fearless, explosive temperament, and that temperament doesn't politely switch off around your own kind. Fights among them likely turned deadly. The number of men fell, the birth rate followed, and a species that was never very large started quietly running out of itself. Nobody knows for certain which of these did it. Probably all of them at once, leaning on a population already stretched dangerously thin. But here's the part that rewrites the whole question. Neanderthals didn't simply lose and disappear. When geneticists finally managed to read the Neanderthal genome, around 2010, they found something nobody was ready for. They lined it up against ours, and the two weren't separate after all. If your ancestry runs through anywhere outside Africa, you are carrying roughly 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA in your body right now. That heavy brow, that thick-boned hunter who could have crushed your hand, he isn't a closed chapter sitting behind museum glass. He's in your genes. The two species met, and for a while, they didn't only fight. They had children. And those children's descendants became, in part, you. So who would win, you versus a Neanderthal? In a straight fight, it was never close. You'd lose every single time. But winning turned out to be the wrong frame entirely. The Neanderthals weren't so much defeated as absorbed. The stronger species got folded into the cleverer one, generation by generation, until the line between them blurred and then vanished. You're not the thing that beat them. You're the place they ended up. Somewhere inside you sits a sliver of a creature that walked 30 miles through the snow, fought a bear for a place to sleep, and lost an entire world without ever fully leaving it. Most days you'll never feel it, but the next time you brace for something heavy and surprise yourself with what you can lift, that might just be a very old strength saying hello.